we are going and taking surveys, and we are conducting some sort of community events. So are those events or are those figures also going to come under the impact infographics, like 20 to 25 community events conducted, these many number of people are talked to, or something like वो progress वाली चीज भी आएगी, like those progress things will also come in the impact figures. I just
Absolutely.
want to know that. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you are doing community meetings, if you're doing one-to-one discussions, one important figure is how many number of people are getting impacted through your work, right? So if it's a plant which you're setting up, I'm just giving you an example in a village in Hisar. So the first thing which you should find out in that village is what is the population, what is the, as per the census, what is the population of that village or of that panchayat. And that is a, then based on that you can calculate a backward population. Okay, probably it will not make a lot of sense to the children, but it will make a sense to the women in the village. It will make sense to the elderly in the village, to the farmers. So what is the kind of population you're targeting at? And if you can create going forward, if you can create a gender lens, like how will it impact the women in the village, how will it impact the farmers in the village, or some other stakeholders in the village, then again use that information. Because even if you don't do even a single meeting in this project, if you have a one-to-one discussion, if you pick up the phone, if the program team picks up the phone and speaks to every family or every household in the village, it is awareness. So you don't need a workshop to create awareness. In this era of pandemic, you don't know whether there will be a time when we'll go out and do a community event. We are not sure about it. So use all your knowledge about this, that how can you, are you in a way empowering them through digital knowledge, or is there, what are the different indicators, what is the kind of awareness? A simple example of awareness is also, if there is a wall painting which talks about your plant or talks about your project, and that painting is in a very prominent area in the village, calculate on an average basis, on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, how many new people will see that, and what will the impact of seeing that that poster will create. Not everyone will understand it, but again create a rough calculation. Okay, 100 people see, 30% probably have a retention power and they will learn something about it. So that is your direct outreach is probably 30, indirect outreach is 70. Similarly, if you are creating awareness among a panchayat member, among a punch member, if he goes out after attending your session, if he goes out and speaks to 10 people, then your actual impact is 11, because one punch member who is spreading awareness to 10 other members. So think like that, that how can you multiply everything, whatever work that you're doing, how can you multiply? And that is the impact figure uh, which they are talking about. And that's how things work. Like even if you see any speech of our PM or a CM of any state, they talk a lot about numbers. How do they arrive at those numbers? Because there is a systematic way of actually evaluating that these are the numbers which we have reached out. Because ultimately when you present your project, you will talk about numbers, so many people getting educated, so many people getting screened, so many lives saved. That's what all it all boils down to, right?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
As of now, the PPT we will be presenting will just have our predicted impact.
Yeah.
All the quantitative data we will be presenting will have a lot of uncertainty.
Hmm.
So, will it in any way hamper the credibility, our credibility for CSR?
No, it won't hamper your credibility, because a project proposal and a budget is based on an estimate, but it is based
Hmm.
on something called a logical framework analysis. So this is something which you can Google, what is a logical framework analysis. Uh, so here basically what happens is, in a logical framework analysis, you give your project an objective, you within those objectives you also define the activities. So if you have 4 objectives, maybe you have around 20 activities to achieve those objectives, and for every objective there is a measurable indicator. So say for instance an NGO says that we will be working on educating children, right? That is objective number 1. So the measurable indicator is how many children are getting educated, and how will you measure whether they got enrolled in the schools, whether they got enrolled in some skill development center, or whether it is the percentage of students who passed a particular exam. So that is your measurable indicator. So whatever you will be quoting, whatever you will be number you will be giving, you have to give a measurable indicator in your project proposal. And in your impact also, you cannot mention so much in detail, but you can make it specific. So in your impact, you are sharing that so many people will get awareness, so many people will get directly benefited, so many farmers will actually get benefited, and that will have a direct impact on their farming activities, whatever is your project, but the number has to be specific. And innovation is also a key. I mean, in your example, you are doing innovation, so you have to focus on innovation, because not every NGO gets that opportunity to have a team like you who are working with them and working on a proposal. So what it says is that it says a lot about the organization also. The organization is very accountable and very transparent. It is very transparent. It is allowing you to get into their system, because if they were doing some sort of a fraud, they would have not agreed for that, right? So it is the first step you've already taken. So use that. It's a very credible project, because there are 2 different organizations coming together and working on it. And what you are bringing is a lot of things. You're bringing a lot of digital knowledge, you're bringing a lot of technical expertise, bringing a lot of what should I say, youth engagement in the project. So these are the some of the things which you should highlight, that this is your high point of your project. And yes, the only thing is the spending part. If the organization hasn't spent so much, then that can be a hindrance in some of the projects, but not every project. But whatever is, try to keep it as transparent as possible. That will have a very good impact on the CSR concerned person.
So I had another doubt that
Yeah.
you mentioned about how the company wants to involve its employees also in that project. I did not get that part. I mean, how does the company aim to do that?
So say for instance, I'm just giving you an example, and this is a real example. I used to work for an NGO called Navjyoti India Foundation. That foundation was headed by Dr. Kiran Bedi, and I mean, she was one of the founder trustees. And then there was a team and a director under the supervision of whom the project was implemented. So they had an environment project. So what they used to do is that besides the project deliverables and all those things, there were certain days which they used to celebrate. For example, World Water Day, World Environment Day. So all these important days they used to celebrate. So the employees of that organization used to visit the project site and used to interact with the beneficiaries, and they used to do some activity, whether it's plantation, some sort of an environment drive, cleanliness drive, and things of that sort. So this is a example of an on ground sort of work, which at the moment I think will be difficult, and no company will allow that. But there are other things also, like if there is a webinar, or if there is some sort of an interaction, or a lot of organizations, the employees of that organization, if they have a technical expertise in a particular area, then some of them can come and just measure the success of the project, can get into the impact assessment and need-based assessment. So that's how they get involved. So also one thing is that when you build your proposal, in your text box, you can, using text box, you can actually put different areas proactively. This is how we plan to engage your employees in this activity, right? So in the inauguration of your plant, the employees can come together and they can do some sort of a responsibility. In the need-based assessment, they can help in quantitative or qualitative analysis. In the branding of this project, there could be a campaign which could be built around the employees, where probably it could be just a webinar where they are wearing t-shirts or with the message and spreading the awareness. So if you give them options, their mind will also think, yes, this NGO and this organization is thinking on those lines. This is thinking on branding. In your proposal, you should mention about branding. So how will you brand this? Everything should be co-branded, right? So Enactus logo, the funding organization's logo, the NGO logo should come in every publication, right? What you can offer is, I don't know whether you send, Enactus sends newsletters or not, but with the kind of database that Enactus has, if Enactus agrees to send project updates in newsletters, then I'm sure you can reach out to 5 to 10 lakh people a month. And that's a huge impact. The company will be more than willing to support you because they cannot envision this sort of an impact. So uh, just keep on thinking on those lines. How can more people know about this project? So that is a crucial indicator, and that is how you will convince the CSR that uh, I mean, show them the bigger picture. Or if Enactus can come with a campaign, if you think that's possible, mention it in the project proposal that we will digitally celebrate World Environment Day, we will digitally do this, we will create branding, and we will do all these things. We will send newsletters, we will draft communication material, we will make a short film if that's possible. Make it as innovative and engaging as possible.
So I had a question about the FCRA registration that you showed in your slides. What is it and how we are able to get it?
So I also had a question because so as a body, Enactus, what is it? Is it a association? Is it a society? What is the legal entity of Enactus?
So Inactus is a trust. So I think right now A2G and all these have been revoked. So we will be applying for that.
Okay, and as a trust, so is Enactus applying for FCRA registration?
We will be applying for A2G and 12A.
Okay,
I'm not
that
sure
will be the
about
first one.
F. Yes.
And the name of the NGO was, I think, Shiv Ganga, right? Through whom you are doing
Right.
this project. Do they have FCRA?
Yes, sir.
I
We
think they would
haven't
be
talked
having because
about it uh, as of now, but I guess they will be having FCRA.
they are taking CSR and other. They have a bigger reach in their area, so they are taking CSR and all.
Okay. So basically, FCRA is, if you read the FCRA law, it basically stands for Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, and any NGO which is asking for funds from a international organization or from outside need to have an FCRA account. So every NGO has a bank account. It could be in any bank, but for FCRA, they need to have a specific account in State Bank of India in a specific branch in Delhi, where all these funds comes, and through that, basically that goes to they use these funds and it is used for the project. But FCRA certification, like the FCRA certificate, it has a long process. It has an audit process, and that audit is done by Ministry of Home Affairs. So any NGO which is 3 years old and has ATG 12A, all the audited financials, they can apply for this. They'll have to submit all the documents online. Then they will have to comply all the formalities, open the bank account. So it's a good 5 to 6 months process. With today's challenge and everything, it will be a good 6 months process. There's a whole FCRA checklist which they need to fulfill, which is CA. Generally, I think you need a CA or some legal person to help, because otherwise it will be difficult for the NGO, because there are lots of processes. I myself have been part of a few of the FCRA applications. So it's a very long process. So the thing is, you apply, then you hear from them, then there is an audit, then it takes time, and finally it is decided whether your application is accepted or rejected. And there should be no discrepancy. Specific things like what is the name mentioned on your trust deed and what is the name mentioned in your audited financial statement should match. There should be no discrepancy whatsoever. And if you get rejected twice, third time you cannot apply. So you have to be very careful with your application. So that is what is needed. So with Shiv Ganga, you can check with them if they have applied for FCRA before, or if they don't want haven't applied, then you can actually guide them to apply, and you can use maybe you can hire a consultant or take effort of a volunteer who has experience of FCRA applications and get that process. But it is only after that certificate that they'll be able to take funds from outside.
So I have a query.
Yeah.
What is the basic difference between pitch deck, which we present in B plan competitions, business competition, and CSR proposal? Like, what are some descriptive or demarcative things that cannot or should not be included in CSR proposal but are there in pitch deck?
I think a pitch deck.
In
Yeah.
pitch deck, we calculate market segment and customer size also. Market size and customer segment. We focus on those areas also. So, should these be included in our CSR proposal? Or
It
what
can
are the minimal things that should be included in proposal, according to you?
see, it can be a part of it as an annexure, but generally, I think the format of a proposal is very fixed. And most of the organization, they use a very standard sort of a template. And that's because even I think just to make things simpler. So one good way of understanding that what all should we include in the proposal is the CSR of PSUs, because whenever there's a public sector undertaking and they have a CSR, they don't take your format, but you have to follow their format, right? So if I give you an example of that, so I have this a template of Bharat Petroleum, their CSR, and that is very self-explanatory. And if any NGO which has to apply for their CSR have to follow their template, otherwise their proposal will not be accepted. And the reason why they do it, because they get so many other applications, so many applications from different NGOs. So for them to evaluate which one is better, they want the same set of indicators. So that is a whole logic behind it. And if I show that on your, if I just share the screen and show that proposal to you, this point will be clearer. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it is.
So this is the proposal format of Bharat Petroleum, and here it is. It starts with the general instructions. So obviously this part you can avoid because this is obviously their internal document. But if we straight away come to the point, so it is about the organization, and it is like an organizational profile. It has to be very brief. Then the background, and the background here you can focus on the problem statement or the community, the need-based assessment of the community. Kindly mention details of need assessment. So why is the project really needed? And one thing here I want to also share is that the project that you envision to do, uh, always create some sort of a documentation that what is the need-based assessment of your project. So has Shiv Ganga spoken to the beneficiaries there, panchayat there, people from the government there, to the women, elderly, farmers, uh, have they spoken to them, and are there enough voices coming from those areas that sort of gives a rationale of your project? Okay, so this is a point you can note, and you can actually do this. Even a testimonial, a small, not a testimonial, but a quote, a verbatim can help you in sort of signifying or highlighting your point. Now the thematic areas. Here, obviously, you will write the area which you will be focusing on, which is majorly about environment, right? And now the actual body of the proposal starts, the proposed objectives, which should be in bullet points. What are objective number 1, objective number 2, things like that. Methodology is basically about how will you implement the project. So methodology should include the activities. How will you mobilize the community? How will you go about creating the infrastructure? How will you monitor the progress of the project? What kind of a technical expertise you will take, and how will you use that? Uh, how will you hand over the knowledge to the community and to the NGO? Target group, who are your beneficiaries? That is very important. uh, and that could be direct beneficiaries as well as indirect beneficiaries, but proportion: how many male, how many female, how many men, how many women, how many underprivileged people, how many people from below the poverty line are actually getting benefit of your project. Team for the project. So here you can mention your team, people at Shipanga who will be driving this project. Monitoring mechanism, here you can do a little bit of a research in terms of that. You can, if you just have a if you just read a little bit about monitoring and evaluation, you can do a lot of things: focus group discussions, semi-structured interviews, monitoring and review meetings with the stakeholders. So you can do a little bit of a research and give it a timeline. Then what is your outcome? Now there's a difference between objective and outcome. So objective is what you are emphasizing, but outcome is what you are actually getting out of it. So uh, you have to make it your outcome P smart. P smart meaning that you have to make it performances oriented. You have to make it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. There should be a timeline. So in your outcome, you will always mention that by the end of 10th month you will get there. By the end of third month you will reach there. That timelines is very important. Execution plan, at times also a contingency plan. So if you think that there is if you're the kind of infrastructure that you're creating, if you feel that rain could be one of the contingencies, flood could be one of the contingencies, or any other mishappening could be a contingency, put that in your proposal. Also a risk and mitigation plan. So if you think that there is a particular risk, then how will you go and deal about it? If you even think that the present pandemic is a risk, then you create a plan on how you will deal with dealing with this pandemic, and so that your basically objective of the project doesn't get sort of defeated. Impact assessment, how will you document the project? How will you create a impact? It is always a good idea to put an impact document or an impact video as one of the indicators. You can mention in your proposal that at the end of it you will be creating an impact document or an impact video, or will be developing success stories. And obviously the financial implications, that is actually the budget and all those things. I think the administrative cost should not exceed 20% of your budget. I mean 20% of the total project. So you have to keep that into mind. Cost per beneficiary is important, because that's what the company is looking at, कि एक beneficiary में मुझे कितना खर्चा हो रहा है. For one beneficiary, how much am I spending, and what are the total number of beneficiaries? A good CSR project will have 5 to 10,000 beneficiaries. That cannot be 100, 50, even 1,000. It has to be in more than that. Okay. And you can use this format payment schedule, because what will happen is generally when you sign the MOU with the CSR or the Shiv Ganga signs it, they at the time of signing the MOU, they'll probably give 20 or 30% of the project budget. Second payment will be after first quarterly report. Third payment will be after second quarterly report. So you can create a rough structure to it. And all these things is just not about convincing the CSR, but it is actually helping you also, because you're creating a comprehensive plan for it. And this is the most important thing, sustainability plan. So in your project, you can build different things. There are environmental projects where even people take community contribution. They're taking something from the community. They may be just taking 5 rupees a month from the people who are participating. That 5 rupees is not aimed at building a revenue, that is aimed at building ownership. So how will this project become sustainable? It will be only through participation and ownership of stakeholders of panchayat, right? So there should be a component where the panchayat gives money for it, whether which is taken care by the village level bodies. There should be something, or if there is nothing, then it should be just shramdaan. So if you're creating a plant, you're paying the workers, probably 20 days or 30 days should be shramdaan in a 12 month project. 20 or 30 days shramdaan is not a big thing, so you can include that. And the other thing which I wanted to just take you through is that these are the, in your annexure, then you can create a checklist like this. So basically here, I think Shiv Ganga needs to submit all the documents, right? And you are the facilitators, and that's how you can communicate, because the money will come to their account. So here you will actually, you can share all this information, all this, you can share this checklist. Like this is what Shiv Ganga shares with them. It's a trust deed or registration certificate, all this certification, 12A, 80G, copy of PAN card, last 3 years financial audited statement. If you want to attach a technical report or something, or a quotation or something like that, you can also do that. If you have reference letter or testimonials of donors, you can do that. Similarly, for infrastructure projects, it becomes very technical, and these are the sort of documents which is required, because there's a lot of estimates, uh, what is the area in which it is built, all this validation is important, what is the land, who is giving the land, and all these things. Or where are you constructing the plant, whether it's in a school or in a community space or near an Anganwadi, all this sort of things has to be part of it. So you can use one of these templates to actually create your proposal and not start from ground zero. And obviously in a content deck, the things are different, because in the content deck, it is more of the sales sort of a function where you're actually selling. A content deck is more relevant to a vendor rather than a project implementing agency, because there you need a marketing plan, you need a technical feasibility plan, you need different things. You need the team sort of a structure, the capability of the team, you need the proposal, the budget, and n number of things. So here it is much more specific, where you need a more comprehensive proposal and a budget, and the budget and proposal should be in sync with each other. They cannot be contradictory to each other. If you have any other questions, then I will be happy to take it up.
I think we are exhausted with questions.
Okay. So I will, at the end of it, I am just sharing a link with you. It's a Google link. So I would like you to share your feedback after this session. And Pritesh, just sharing what I had shared yesterday also, that in case you are looking for a support in terms of building a comprehensive proposal and reaching out to the stage of actually getting a funding, I have a module which I have created, and a lot of different people from different organizations like Niti Aayog, which was organizations like Planning Commission before, different block development officers, CSR heads have contributed in terms of their inputs in that module. And that module is completely free of cost, and it is based, the way it goes is pay as you go. So I do sort of implement or do sessions in these sort of share my knowledge in these modules, and as a group an organization can sort of enroll for that, which will have a series of sessions and tasks which will be given to you. It works like a project, and it is over a month of 2 months that the whole module gets implemented, and I'll be sharing a lot of resources. In case you feel or you are interested in doing that, you can feel free to reach out to me, or in case you just want to, besides the module also, in case you just want to contact me. So Pritish has my email ID, but I am just putting it in the chat box also. So I will just request that if you can also sort of share your feedback and reach out to me whenever you